All right. Now, one thing I do. Shalom, everybody in the chat. Welcome. We have Truth Unveiled, and we're going to have a great interview with him. I was looking forward to this particular interview all week, and I know some of you were even asking me, what happened, and you haven't seen him around. So I'm going to let him explain exactly what happened. And it's going to sound very familiar to what's been happening to a lot of people on YouTube in these recent weeks. So I'm going to give him the floor. And let's just start out with the basic questions. So we know you have been on YouTube for several years, and suddenly you just disappeared.
Yeah.
So just tell us what happened that day when your channel was taken down.
All right. Well, shalom, everyone. Truth Unveiled here. Yeah. So what ended up happening was that, as a lot of you already know, I've been on YouTube since 2015 as Truth Unveiled 777. The main channel has amassed well over 360,000 subscribers and over 60 million views. Of course, none of that esteem goes to me. It goes to Yahuwah, Abba, Father above. But what ended up happening this time around is that towards December of 2020, I know I posted about it from doing videos talking about, COV and talking about the technology and the VAC and just all of these different topics. They started once again coming up with different censorship techniques. The channel had already been censored multiple times, as I'm sure yours has, and as other people. As networks have been censored as well. But this time around, they kept saying that it was medical misinformation policy, which I didn't even know that was a policy until maybe 6 months after they came out with it. YouTube came out with this just policy back in, I think, May of 2020, claiming that you couldn't say certain things about what. And so long story short, I was led to do videos about certain ingredients and certain things and just different topics about that. And so they started striking those videos in December. So I got about like 2 strikes at that point. But what they also were doing is that they were striking other videos as well. So like, for example, they took down, actually, this is why the channel was terminated again, is because of the Pizzagate video, which was done in 2017. That was in April of 2017. Now, what's interesting about that video is the fact that it was uploaded almost 4 years ago now. And not only was it uploaded 4 years ago, but I'm pretty sure from that point, it didn't even get really any views because there were well over 800 videos on to the network. So I just was like, why are they even coming down with this video? And then there was also one of the scriptures often ignored videos that they took down. A lot of the videos having to do with, the Jewish and the, that topic of realm were also taken down. So by the time January of 2021 rolled around, that's when they terminated the channel again. This was January 6th. And so then I had a backup channel, Truth Unveiled 777 Archives, as most of you might know, but they were also coming against that channel heavily as well. And then there was sort of some other personal things that I think we can talk about later that ended up happening. But for the main channel specifically, that's what happened to it, is that it got terminated. And for those of you who don't know, that this is the second time YouTube has done this. It's done it once before in March of 2018. And then, of course, once again now in all going on 4 months ago. So it's now been about almost 4 months since the main channel has been terminated. And also I want to give a shout out to you, Miss Lisa, for helping get the channel restored the first time. For those of you who don't know, your help has been very instrumental, and prayerfully, if it's Yahweh's will, it can be restored a third time. Because, man, all this back and forth is something. But what's keeping me going right now is being reminded of Matthew 5, 11 through 12. I want to say about Barak or blessed are we who endure these types of persecutions, because the word does say that we're going to be persecuted for his name's sake. So it's just I'm just kind of like keeping that in mind and understanding that, the enemy does not want this truth to get out there, but it's going to get out there and reach who it's supposed to reach indeed. So, yeah. Um, Hello.
I did mute myself because, I didn't want to disrupt you while you were talking.
Oh, that's all
And
right.
oh no, I do understand that. And yes, there's been many, especially over these last 2 weeks, Black YouTubers, Hebrews that have been terminated or got a strike and they can't do videos for a week. Some channels have completely come down of some big name YouTubers. And we know this is not coincidence. And I'm glad you mentioned how in these last days, these are the things that will happen. And we are certainly seeing it, up close and in person. But one interesting topic I want to cover, and I heard you talk about this a couple of years back. I want you to talk about your name change.
Oh, yeah.
And how that all transpired.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, so that was back in 2017. For me, I had met someone who also had changed their name. And, I had been in prayer about it, just really trying to seek the ancient path as much as possible. Of course, I don't recommend everyone to do that. But for me personally, it was, I knew that with the channel at that time, I think in 2017, the channel had been up for about a little over a year, I want to say. And so from that point, I knew personally that, all right, I'm doing this walk full time and really getting out as information full time for just anyone who would listen. So I wanted to really immerse myself fully into the walk. So I told myself, all right, well, I had been in contact with somebody who had also changed their name. And so I just kept wondering, well, what should I change it to? And should I do this? Because also I had seen a lot of people on Facebook had also given themselves like Hebrew names, maybe not have like governmentally like or lawfully changed it, but they had given themselves names like Ban Yasharal or Bath Yaua as their last name if they're a girl, because Bath means daughter, or Ban Yasharal, son of Yasharal, if they're a boy. So long story short, it's like I wanted to really sort of take that on full time, like the word says, to go to the ancient path. So I've been in prayer about it, like, well, what name would best suit me? What scriptural name would best suit me? And then Yahu, which is the name for Jeremiah. I don't know if people know that, but that is the his original name in the ancient language. Which means Yahuwah is exalted, but it also means whom Yahuwah has appointed. And reading chapter 1 of that really helped me realize and understand that there were a lot of similarities between me and him. Not to say that the exact same things, of course, but like for example, he was young when Yahuwah had revealed himself to him. And a lot of people don't even know my age on the channel, or for a lot of people, this is their first time seeing me in person or hearing me or matching a face to the voice. So a lot of people don't even know that as of right now, I'm 26 years old. But when the channel started, I was 20. That's how young I was. A lot of people think I'm like maybe 3 times that age. So, and a lot of people who listen to the channel and tune in are literally twice or maybe even 3 times my age. And so sometimes I have to remember that, wait a second, I'm still in my 20s. Like I'm still growing in a lot of areas. I'm still maturing in a lot of areas. And of course, I don't know everything. And like I even say on the channel, I don't claim to know 1,000% everything, as we all are, I pray, are still learning and growing on this walk. But long story short, I just saw the similarities. And also another similarity too is that the Jeremiah in scripture is that he was also a writer just like me. I don't know if a lot of people know or have tuned into the earlier videos back in 2015 when the channel was uploaded, that a part of my testimony is that I am a full-time writer and a full-time author. And so I had been doing that before coming into the truth. I'd written children's books, had been on book signings, and had done self-publishing, and had worked at self-publishing houses and also major publishing houses before coming into the truth. So long story short, though, that's kind of what was the inspiration for it. And so, yeah, Jeremiah chapter 1 really inspired me. And so I just decided to take a step of belief and just and take that on. Of course, people can still refer to me as Chris because that's my my born name. But that's also like my Yahudiya Hebrew name as well. It's kind of interesting because you kind of see that in multiple cultures, so to speak. Like you
Mhm.
see some people have like their birth name, but then they also have like their cultural name, if that makes sense.
Right. But you know what? You're right. Because if you go back in the Bible, over your lifetime, it was not unusual for names to change. You had Abram to Abraham. You had
Yeah,
Sarai to Sarah,
yeah,
right? And you
yeah,
had Jacob to Israel. You know,
yeah.
it was not unusual. It was more common than uncommon for you to start out with one name, but as you grew as a Hebrew, your name would actually change. But see, that's not something we're used to. You know, I have my government name, which
Hmm.
is Lisa. But when I came into the truth, I was in a group, a Bible study group when I started, and they gave me the name Leah.
Really?
And I just never told anybody. But yes, they named me Leah in the
Wow.
group. And and many of them wanted me to be in charge and lead the group. You don't know why certain things happen. You know, I think as we grow, the Most High is ultimately trying to strengthen our voice among our people. And it sounds like that's what happened to you when you say, oh, you know, people thought I was older, because somewhere along the line, he gave you wisdom
Hmm.
to the point where people thought, oh, well, he got to be older. How would he have all of this knowledge? And
Yeah.
I really think that is a reason that I think in these last days, certain people's voices are going to be enhanced. While you may have other Hebrew brothers, they've been in the truth for a long time, but they are just not resonating with the crowd. There's a reason for that. You know what I'm saying? I mean, and think about it. You don't have to have a lot of experience for our Heavenly Father to um, just to put you in a high position. Look at David. David didn't have any experience in politics or being a king, but he got elevated to that point. And I don't always think the Heavenly Father is looking for that experience. It's something spiritually within you
Hmm.
that makes him turn to you and appoint you for certain things. But I'm just saying that's what I believe.
Wow, that's powerful, like you just said about, Yahweh appointing, because that's exactly what happens. And that's really what my Hebrew name means, is that you appointed by the creator to, accomplish his will and his work. And it's interesting because the name I was given too, Chris or Christopher, can also mean like anointed or like anointed one, like the anointed, not like Yahusha, of course, who is the anointed one. But it's interesting because too, I think another thing we don't really realize about this walking about just coming into the truth is that names have significance. And that's why I really emphasize that on the channel, and even the backup channel as well, is that names are so important. Like you were saying, names have meaning. Like, so when you call somebody a name, it has a meaning to it. There is a meaning attached to it. And in our culture and language, practically all the names of the people in scripture have meanings to them. Like, for example, John. When you hear John in the English, you just think, oh, John, no big deal. Like, it's just a name. Like, it's just like, it's a very common name in America. And that's all you don't think too much about it. However, in our culture, that name is Yahukanan, which means Yahuwah favors, or the favor of Yahuwah. So you can even look at that and see that with Yahukanan, or John the Immerser in scripture, how the favor of Yahuwah was upon him during that time, and how the scripture prophesied about prepare
Thank
ye
you.
the
Oh
way
my
for
goodness.
Yahuwah.
Thank you. Thank you for saying all of that.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, let me just tell you something, and I'm sure you already know this. You know, we get told, oh, you know, that name came from the white man. Actually, they stole our names.
Yes, they did.
It's the other way around. We
Yes.
did not take any names from them. They stole our names. And that's what our people got backwards.
Yeah.
So when they look at you, oh, that's a white man. No, no, it isn't.
No.
No, it isn't. This man knew nothing about the Bible until they came around us.
Exactly.
So therefore, anything they got from it, they took it and tried to make it their own. But those names, John, Mary, Miriam, all of that, they took that from us.
Yeah.
It's not the other way around at all.
Exactly. And like we said, that they have meaning to them, and they have, like, even the name Mary comes from Mariam, which can mean bitter. And it's a very interesting name because, again, when you look at Mariam, or the mother of Yahusha, you see that what happened when Yahusha died on that stake, or was hung on the tree, that she wept bitterly for him. And so I think that's important. And on top of that, if it was on Passover, and what's so important about that is that what Yahuwah instructed our people on the first Passover, that they had to eat what? They had to eat bitter herbs to make them understand and realize it's all like you said, definitely interconnected. And I think it's the same with our names. And my prayer, if nothing else, that people have taken away from the channel, especially from the more so spiritual videos, is that they realize and understand the importance of names. Like even the name of our creator, Yahuwah, his name literally means he who exists, or the existing one. And so I think when we approach it from that perspective, we start to understand just how important they are. And I'm glad you brought up about, even in scripture, you do see a lot of name changes as well in the scriptures too, and kind of how that plays a role in the cultivation of the person. And like you said, really allowing that person to be used by Yahuwah in whatever way, shape, or form, a vessel that Yahuwah uses them in. And like you said, that's definitely very important indeed, especially in our times now with everything happening and occurring the way that they are occurring rapidly now.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
And it is very, very rapid. And when we were talking on the phone, one of the issues I brought up with you is how much the world has changed
Yeah.
in the last year. I mean, just waking up every day, I'm telling you, it just don't feel like it used to.
No.
Like when I woke up back in 2019, you can definitely see something is definitely changing on a spiritual level in the world.
Yeah, it definitely is. I mean, like we talked about, like not just with all the censorship, but the fact that I've realized, and I'm pretty sure a lot of you have too, from researching and doing different type of like trying to just find information. It is much more difficult to find information now. Like even when I search a different like topic, or like say I'm on YouTube and I need to search a video, or even just search like a document, or like a government document, or an article from a database, or even like an ancient map. Even a lot of times what happens is if you put whatever you search for in quotes, you'll actually find what you're looking for. But especially on YouTube, what I notice now is like related videos. And it's like the related videos have nothing to do with what I just searched for, even if it's like a simple topic, or even if I put something in verbatim. Like even for example, the flat, like if you just even look up information about the flat earth, if you type in flat earth on YouTube, now what you're going to get is you're going to get a bunch of different mainstream videos about flat earth. Most of them are going to be debunking it. You're going to get a bunch of things from like, I don't know, like news articles like ABC and different companies that 5 years ago, these companies they either didn't even have channels, or they had like 10,000 views of video. And I'm a witness to that, because I remember when they first started uploading, like ABC and all them, they weren't even on YouTube 5 years
No.
ago. Like there was no, but now that's all you see. That's all that is being purported onto these mainstream companies. And I know it's the same with Facebook. I know it's the same with Instagram and Twitter. So it's like this whole Gestapo thing, that system that we have been talking about, that I'm sure you also have been
Oh yeah.
talking about
You know,
here
you
as
know what
well.
I'm seeing a lot? You know what I'm seeing a lot? I am seeing the 2024 eclipse.
Mm,
Over the last several weeks, I'm seeing a lot of major news outlet referring to that,
really?
because technically that's the one that's going to finish the X across the US.
Yes.
And I was like, okay, why are they talking about this so much in 2021?
Yeah. Why is that? Very
It's
interesting.
really weird, but yeah, it's very interesting. Over the last several weeks, I keep seeing them talking about that. So
Yeah.
you can tell there's a great concern. Even the Gentiles are having a lot of great concerns in these last days. And what you're talking about is more proof of that,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
which is very interesting.
Very interesting and suspicious indeed.
So tell me, how did this walk begin for you? Where did your journey start with the Most High?
Oh, that is a That is a wonderful question. Well, I guess the uh, short end of it is it all really started in 2015. Like I said, I came from a writing background, so I'm originally from Chicago, born and raised. But I went to school in Boston for creative writing, I want to say in 2013. So for 2 years, I went to school out there for creative writing. And then I decided towards the spring of 2015 that I wanted to pursue writing full time. I had also written a bunch of screenplays and a bunch of novels. And when I say screenplays and novels, I'm talking like a publishable, ready, like manuscript ready type of books that are mostly for children's books. And so I don't know if a lot of people know this, but in order for your book to go mainstream, in order for a book to go into like a Barnes and Noble or a bookstore outlet like that, you have to get what's called a literary agent. And I've talked about this on the channel in a few videos, but getting a literary agent will help you get to a major publisher like Scholastic, Random House, and some of the other ones. I mostly would specialize in children's books as well as TV for children or families. So, long story short, in 2015, I moved to Los Angeles to pursue creative writing full time. That's something that I wanted to do. However, in the summer, that's when everything changed because I was trying to get my stuff placed. I actually, the same day that I went to a writer's conference, because a writers conference is where writers get to network with different agents, they get to network with different publishers and editors. So I was there and I had submitted my work to two different agents who were interested at the time. So I get to my apartment, and then I just had a question in my mind. This was back towards the end of June of 2015. And the question I had in my mind was, it was literally placed there, but I always wonder, was the Messiah, was he really resurrected on a Sunday like we've been told? That was always the question I had on my mind. So I remember typing that in. It had to be at like midnight on my phone. I typed that question into Google. And one of the first things that popped up on the search engine was a lady by the name of Dr. Lorraine Day. Some of you might have heard of Dr. Lorraine Day. Dr. Lorraine Day is a cancer survivor and is probably well into her 80s now, but she talked about how she survived cancer. And she is like, I want to say like a licensed surgeon in California, if I'm not mistaken. But long story short, she's talked a lot about these different issues and has talked about like the AIDS and the truth about that. So I looked at her website, and she has like she had a bunch of information about different topics, political topics and spiritual topics. And one of the things that she talked about was the truth about Easter Sunday as we know it. So then I learned from there that, wow, the Messiah really was not resurrected on a Sunday as we've been taught, but it was on the Sabbath or the seventh day. And so that's kind of where it all started. And then leading from there, it then was kind of like a trickle effect. I remember maybe like 3 months later being on an airplane, and literally the person who was sitting next to me started explaining to me about the flat earth. Like he was telling me, oh, the earth is flat. Look outside. You see that the sky, there's no curvature. You see that it's a straight line when you look out, and that there is no curve anywhere. And so I'm like, but then I remember asking him, like, but why would they hide something like that? Why would they lie about something like that? And I remember him telling me, I can't tell you that. That's something I cannot tell you. That's something that I can't tell you. You'll have to really figure that out on your own, basically, is what he was saying, paraphrasing. So so now it's summer going into the fall of 2015. And now I don't know if you remember, but there was this huge thing going on with September 23rd, 2015, with the different speculations that, oh, this is going to be the end of the world, and oh, everybody prepare, and oh, there's this mass hysteria going on. So then as I'm researching into that, that's where all the research had been led into. Now, mind you, I had basically just dropped out of college. I didn't have a job. I was in the middle of Los Angeles trying to get placed with writing. So all I had was pretty much time on my hands. So for probably a good 10 to 12 hours a day during that time, in the summer and fall, for so probably a good 5 6 months or so, I have been just researching different things, being led on what to research. So think topics such as FEMA camps, topics such as the Illuminati, topics such as the New World Order, all of these different so-called conspiracies and moon landings and flat earth and all of this stuff. eventually led to, around the fall of 2015, the truth about religion, and then also about Christianity, where it really comes from, the origins of it, also the origins of the church and tithing, what tithing really is. And then it came to things like the dietary laws that are spoken of in Leviticus 11 and Deuteronomy 14, things that have been talked about on the channel. And then it had gone into deeper spiritual things, finally arriving to the name of our creator. In fact, here's a fun fact. I didn't actually learn the name of our creator until after the channel was created. So long story short, I knew that by around November of this, or December of 2015, I had I had taken notes of everything that I had been researching and had been led to, like interviews and articles and news reports, magazines, all of these different periodicals and stuff. So from that point, I just told myself in my innermost being, people need to know about this. There's this stuff can't just sit on my computer all day long gathering dust. Like, people need to know about this. So I had been in prayer, still not really knowing the name of the creator, but I knew that I was being led. And so I'm like, all right, well, what should I do with this information? Because I was praying and I told the Father, I want to do your will and work full time, because I had been applying to different jobs. I had probably applied to like 50 jobs in LA at that time, and probably one or two got back with me. And then I had a seasonal position at Hulu, which is the TV company, but it was only seasonal. So I'm like, all right, this is not. And then once I learned the truth about the Illuminati and about Hollywood and what goes on and all of the deeper things behind that, I'm like, well, I gotta get out of this industry. Like, I'm not getting too deep into that. Like, no, I don't want to go.
Yeah.
I don't want to go down that road.
Yeah,
Like,
I hear you. Did you ever hear of Bohemian
yes.
Growth?
Oh,
Yeah.
yes.
Okay.
I've talked about
Okay.
that too. Yes, I've talked about that on the network as well. And I'm like, I don't want to. I don't want to do that. So I'm gonna have to. Basically, the road down LA was basically closed, and so I
Hmm.
knew that. All right. So then I was led to, well, put everything on YouTube and start a YouTube channel. And so the original videos, for people who remember, in December 2015, were videos like this, where I showed my face in camera. I talked about my testimony and how I had become from Christian to coming into the truth, because I was in Christianity for over 20 years, or my whole life basically, until this point. And then I would say 90% of the content that is on the channel and that you see on the channel is based on research that was done in Los Angeles during that time. I'd say the only things that are not were the True Locations series, which all of that information and research came much later. But things like all of the, like, I want to say the most of the documentaries, ones like the Pagan Origins of JC, things like that, as well as, again, like the most of the political videos and stuff, all of that really stemmed from that research that was done. And I also, another fun fact is, I'd say maybe a couple of months before starting the channel, I heard a voice when I was sleeping say that you are my chosen, that I'm chosen. And I'm like, and I literally respond, I'm like, chosen, what are you talking about? Your chosen are in Israel. That's where your chosen are, because again, that's what we have been taught. And then literally maybe a couple months later, I had run into a documentary proving that we are the real people of scripture, or what they call the Jews, or the Yahudim, that we are the chosen people of the Most High, of the Creator. And so once I learned that, I was able to really grasp that, then I understood what that voice was saying. And so that really led into the channel, and then led into doing the channel full time from 2015 onward,
Hmm.
until, YouTube has been implementing all of these draconian things pretty much, I'd say, since 2017 onward. It's
Hmm.
just been nothing but draconian laws and draconian this, and can't talk about this, can't talk about that. Let them strip away your First Amendment rights this
Yeah.
way, even though you never had rights to begin with, like I
Let,
say
let
on
me
the
tell
channel.
you something. I know where you're coming from.
Yeah,
I've been down this road where my channel was taken down.
yeah.
And here's the funny thing. I got a warning put on my channel back in 2019. Okay.
Wow.
And the video that they based it on was one that was looping around with me just repeating the same thing over and over. And I don't have any looping videos. So somebody clearly doctored this thing up
Wow.
just to get the warning on. Now, I want y'all to think about this. I got the two-factor authentication on. I've had it on since 2017. So how is it that somebody was able to put that video on my channel to get me hit with a warning? That is obviously an inside job. It is no other explanation for that. How do you have two-factor authentication and somebody can come along and just add a video on your channel? So no, that's inside. That's
Oh
inside.
man.
You know, I've had things happen and I might not have spoken about it all the time, but just based on what I have seen, there's no doubt that it is in hot. Yeah, that's what I'm finding out. Brother Sly, you had two-factor authentication and got hacked before. Yes. And I'm finding this out gradually from other people that had it on, and things happened to their channel too. So it is just like everything else we're taught in the society. It's just a farce. At the end of the day, if somebody on the inside got an axe to grind with you, it doesn't matter if you have that on. It really don't matter at all.
Exactly. Even like this whole like location services, or on your phone, like turn location on, turn location off. They're gonna know where you are whether you turn it on or off. It really
Right.
doesn't matter. Like
Right.
they're gonna know anyway, because when I go outside and I keep my location thing off, the police are still gonna follow me regardless, like they do.
Right.
So like it really doesn't matter.
Yeah, it sure don't. They can ping your phone no matter what, you know, if they really
Exactly.
want to. That is the
Exactly.
truth. That is the truth. How do your
Exactly.
other family members look at you now that you're in the truth? You know, some of mine, when I try to tell them who they are, I can tell they're not really interested. So I don't really push the issue. Once I see the lack of interest, I still, Chris, I am embarrassed. I got family members that are going to parking lot church.
Oh, really?
And when I get on the phone and talk to them, they really, really feel they are connecting with the Most High and they are doing the right thing. I'm so frustrated.
Yeah.
I learned now I don't say anything because it will turn into an argument,
Yeah.
but it's frustrating. But I had to come to the realization, and I was telling other people that I know all my family members are not going to make it. They are just not there. I don't believe they will ever be there. But it's really sad that they think they're sitting in a parking lot to get service and they're passing the collection plate from car to car and they really think they are being blessed for doing that.
Yeah, it's really one of those things, like the delusion is real, and like Ukanan John 5:43 says that, the Messiah says that he comes in his Father's name, and they don't receive him. But if another comes in his own, that's the one they will receive, and that's the one that the world has received. And like you were saying, I kind of go through some of the same things. I mean, I grew up in a very Christian Baptist background, so a lot of my relatives grew up in that, and it's very traditionalism. A lot of them are also older too. I'm thankful that I'm Barak to have a lot of my relatives still alive and living. Like recently, I went to go visit my great grandmother. She's 101. She's at the nursing home, but it's like when that tradition has been embedded in someone for so long, it's like, how are you really able to kind of break out of it? I guess it's like it's been in there so long. And like I would even talk to some of my relatives about it and even share, of course, the channel with them and everything. But the biggest consensus that I would get from them is, well, what about our ancestors before us? They've been taught this way, and they've been doing it this way. They've been going to church for all these years. They've been going to church faithfully on Sunday, and the Lord has been blessing them all this time. So why is it different now, or what's the problem now? When it's like, but they don't understand fully that, all right, do you understand, like the movie Roots? Like, do you understand what really went on during that time or before that, like a couple of generations before our grandparents and great grandparents, when the so-called white man was beating Christianity into our people, was literally making our ancestors worship JC, making them worship this idol, making them go to church and forsake the Sabbath. And so it's like, when you have that understanding and that history, and like inner, then things make more sense. But what I've learned, just like you have, I've come to the realization that, like the word says, shake the dust and keep it moving.
Mhm.
It's like you can tell them, but at this point, I'm not going to keep with anybody in general. Like, it's like, I just don't, at this point, I don't have time to keep going back and forth with certain things and certain topics, because it starts to wear me out. And it's like,
Yeah.
all
Yeah.
you can do is tell them and love them from a distance, and
Mhm.
just pray the best for them. But
And
what I've learned is that seeds are being sown.
yeah, they are. They
Yeah.
are. And we don't know who's going to get picked at the end of the day. It's going to shock some of us with the people that make it and don't. But, I also notice, you have white people, some of them really do know who we are,
Mhm.
and everybody that cleave to us are not necessarily going to make it. You're going to have some that just take in their head, oh, all I got to do is cleave. I ain't got to do nothing else. No, you really got to study to show yourself approved. And you really have to get to know the Most High.
Mhm.
Cleaving to us is just one aspect of it, but you still got to do the work.
Exactly.
And there are many that will do that. They'll cleave and they won't study a thing.
Yeah.
And they just will take in their in their head, oh, I'll make it because I'm cleaving to them. It's not quite like that. One thing about our Heavenly Father, he got a set of rules that we have to meet to get into the kingdom. It's not one of those given things because you know who he is. And Chris, I have had conversations over the years with our people. I remember I had one with a Black woman, and it must have been around 2017.
Mhm.
And I was asking her, I said, do you know who we are? She was like, yeah, I know. I've been new. But she still goes to church.
Mhm.
She still prays white Jesus, and she doesn't care. And I said, well, how do you feel about that? And she was like, well, I don't really care. I just go to church every Sunday, but I do know, but I don't care. She didn't care enough to pursue it,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know, but she did know who we were. She did know.
Yeah, that's interesting, because I've had some encounters like that too, even like from people back in college, like knowing like who we are. But it's like, it's almost like, and that's what I'm learning about this walk, is that it doesn't just stop at one thing. It doesn't just stop at knowing who you are, or who you aren't. It's no, it's about, all right, well, now what are you going to do with that? And I think
Right.
also, like you said, to touch up more about the roles and hierarchical standpoint for even the these Gentiles who cleave on. That's the reality. And I've done a video, it was a Scriptures Often Ignored, about roles and responsibilities, about how basically trying to get people to realize that it's not just, this walk is not just about what we say or how we feel, but it's about our choices and actions. And the reality is, in the kingdom, and a lot of Gentiles might not want to hear this, but it's the truth. But they have to be responsible for what their ancestors have done, and
Yes.
they have to be responsible for almost 2,000 years worth of damage that has been done, whether intentionally or not intentionally. And also, a lot of them are still benefiting off of this system that benefits them. And so in the kingdom, there has to be they have to have, of course, the word talks about how they're going to be servants. And it almost seems like nowadays everybody wants to be king, everybody wants to be the princess, everybody wants that crown royal spot. But the word talks about how in the through our Torah that for Yasharal specifically, the Gentiles are not to reign over us in our own kingdom.
That's right.
That's not
That's
how
right.
that's supposed to go. And so
Mhm.
I pray, my prayer is that people don't take this as hatred or racism or anything like that. No, the reality is that the word says what it says. And like you said, and like the word says, our Creator has a system and order of doing things. Like, there is the king, there are the governors and the judges, and then there are people who are the servants. And it's like, and just, I mean, you see that even today, and even in the UK, you have the so-called queen, then you have the magistrates, and the and then you have the what they call
Mhm.
peasants. And although they pervert that, you know, it's kind where, again, like
Heavily
you said,
perverted.
yeah, where do they get it from? For real?
It's first of all, they're not royals.
No.
They have no real royal bloodline. And I actually did a history on them in a live stream about a month ago.
Oh.
They are hand appointed. King George I was a German man that they hand appointed to the throne in the UK. That's where Queen Elizabeth bloodline comes from a hand appointed man that sat on the UK throne, couldn't speak a lick of English, but his, but the country spoke English and the king did not. I mean, how crazy is that, right? So that's where she comes from. And then I had to play a video that I found of a lineage that she's claiming. Queen Elizabeth claims she has a Hebrew Egyptian background. We know this is a lie, but this is what they made up to try to justify why she's on the throne. She said that she comes from the tribe of Judah. She comes from the tribe of Levi, and she comes from Egyptian kings and queens. Now, we know that's not true. No. We know this is not true at all. No. But like you said, this is all about illusions and fakery, and everything's a lie. And, that's why the world is so pagan, because it's been so many lies told for thousands of years. And as you can see, in this royal family, it's not ancient at all. It's very modern. Okay. The royal family started in the 1700s when we were going through chattel slavery here. That's how recent it is. It's not old at all. So it's been unbearable at times dealing with the lies that are told.
Tell me about it. Tell me about it.
And some people are going to wake up, that light bulb is going to come on, and they are going to realize this is all lies. This is a bunch of BS. But you got some, even our own people. Yes, they are. Those are real. I even had a Black woman tell me this. Yes, they are. They're real royals. Why would they be there if they weren't real royals? I'm like, what? But yes, we got a lot of our own people that are buying into this stuff.
Yeah, it's so sad. It's just a lot of lies. And what I'm noticing too, especially on YouTube, what's making it worse is how easily influenced people are to succumb to the lies. And as you and I both know, the agendas that they're pushing on YouTube. I mean, I talked about it on my channel for years about how this very thing that we're seeing was going to happen and is happening with all the censorship. And like I think we talked over the phone about this, how soon enough you're not even going to be able to post anything on truth related on YouTube or online at all. Like that's how severe it's going to get. And we see that it's slowly but surely going into that direction and trickling into that even right now. Like again, just even do a simple a YouTube search on flat earth or anything like that, and a bunch of lies are going to pop up, a bunch of propaganda is going to pop up, a bunch of YouTube channels with check marks that are mainstream channels are going to pop up about these topics, even with COVID itself. Yeah. So why, and what a lot of people aren't wondering, why is that the case? A lot of people are just it's almost like, it almost is like that government document I reported on. I mean, it might sound crazy, but about the zombies, like Plan 8888, if people remember that, which is the government's plan to, they literally have this outlined, and you can find it on the government website, unless they took it down, about how they're going to identify zombies and identify certain zombies. And of course, they tell you that, oh, it's just a joke, and oh, it's just a scenario. But is it really? Because it's happening right now, even as we speak. Even as we speak, people are going down, taking a vaccine, but didn't question, well, what's in it? What are the side effects? What are the long-term effects? Like any of these things, but are just going to trust the CDC and the FDA and all these other alphabet soups who don't have the people's interests.
No, and think about this, Chris. Before they came on this land and slaughtered the people, we didn't have a banking system. We didn't have their government. We didn't have their cops. We did not have any of their organizations, and the people were living just fine.
Exactly, for years.
So when you really think about it and break it all down, all of the stuff they got here was not even a necessity. And technically, it's not a necessity now. But we have been, looking at it for so long, we think it's supposed to be here. But actually, it's the contrary. This stuff don't belong here. And nobody needed a pharmacy when they got sick. They were able to use herbs and things on the land to heal themselves. And it was not a lot of disease. One of the biggest diseases that existed was malaria. And that was a natural one that came from the mosquitoes at the time. And, remember, we didn't have sinks and all that stuff in the house. You would have to physically go and get your water. And so every now and then somebody would get bit by a mosquito. But the beautiful thing about malaria, it sounds terrible, but you had the natural antibodies to it for the rest of your life. Once you got past the illness. That was really the worst people got in the land. So that being said, if we didn't need this before, when I think about the kingdom, I'm thinking, you know what, we're not going to be dealing with all mortgages and car payments. And we're not going to be dealing with that. That was never necessary.
No,
that was really done out of greed.
And still is. Like, even recently, I learned how to fish, and I go up there to get like a fishing pole.
I used to fish too with my family in Georgia. Yeah, they would get whiting.
Really?
Yeah, we would go and fish. And I remember just sitting on the bridge with my, a couple of my relatives, and we would fish for whiting.
Really?
Yeah, and caught a lot. Caught a lot of them.
I bet indeed. But nowadays, you need a license to go fishing. At least here
that's
in
ridiculous.
Illinois, you do. Like, the government just making money off folk anyway.
You need a license to get in a boat.
You need a license for everything now.
Yeah.
It's like, really? Or even like the banking system, like what people don't understand, like, taxes, they might give some people an incentive. Oh, you get money back from them. But it's like, didn't we learn in American history that they were fighting against taxes just so that they could bring it back 100 and something years later in 1913? And it doesn't, like the 16th Amendment and the Constitution doesn't even say that you need to pay taxes or requires you to pay them. So it's just like, it's like, what exactly? We really don't need these things at all, but yet somehow they've convinced people that not only do they need them, but it is an essential must.
Right.
And they must have it and they must get it. And that's it. And if they don't, then you're looked at as someone crazy, or, oh, you're a conspiracy theorist, even though that's a government invented term as well.
Right.
It's just, it's insanity sometimes.
It is really insanity. And, it just goes to show you how barbaric they have made the system.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, really, who is really enjoying life with all of this stuff? Nobody's even enjoying life. And what is the point? You got all of these people and everything they got is draconian. The IRS will come after you and all this stuff. Everything's draconian with these folks. And they seem to be happy with a system that is really has been a drag on everybody else.
Exactly.
And I understand why our Heavenly Father got to come back, because if you don't get these people out of power, they'll keep this mess up for an oblivion. Yeah, they keep on going. And I mean, what is the rest of us going to do? You got high unemployment. I did a story about a week ago of how many people from March 2020 all the way up until now don't have jobs.
Yeah.
And now they're being evicted and and they're like, okay, once I have that on my credit report, and that's another thing that drags people down, are these credit reports.
Yeah.
Do you realize nobody had to worry about a credit report, during Abraham's time?
Exactly.
Sarah's time? Nobody worried about you. You didn't even have nothing like that. And these people still made it.
Exactly.
But these folks they actually put you in a bad situation based on many of their laws and policies and stuff. And they make it so it's almost impossible for you to drag yourself out once you get sunk into the system.
Yeah, it's a vicious system. And that's actually one of the reasons I had to come out of college, because first of all, I was going for creative writing, and it's almost like, it's nothing against the college system, but I literally picked up a $15 book about creative writing. And in that $15 book, that was the same type of content that I was learning in my sophomore creative writing class. No joke. But the difference is I saved $6,000 doing that. And it's just like, and at the time, my college went up in tuition, and it was almost the same tuition as Harvard, believe it or not. And it's like
Wow.
the difference is people have heard of Harvard, but the liberal arts school I was going to, not many people heard of it. And it's like now you have like they're draining children and their parents into tens, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars worth into debt. Now, again, if people go there for something more practical, like say, because like they have to, like a lawyer or something, that's understandable. But for something like myself with the arts, at least in my scenario, it's like, all right, this is really draining me. I'm 20 something years old and already I have to think about debt. Like you said, who thought about debt 110, 20 years ago?
Yeah.
No one. And like even talking, with my great grandmothers and everything, like I said, one of which is 101, like she even told me like back then they had land and farms and they were able to grow their own food and didn't have to, she even said it out of her own mouth that times are much worse now,
Yeah.
that they didn't have to worry about certain things back then. And it's like,
Yeah.
if she's saying this and she's in her hundreds, then it's like,
Mhm.
what does this mean? Like for
Let me
real?
tell you something, Chris. Let me tell you how my grandparents on my mother's side made it. My grandmother lived in a town called Fitzgerald, Georgia. She was a citizen there for 85 years.
Wow.
You know how they paid their property taxes? She
How?
had 8 pecan trees on her property. And when those pecans became ripe, she would get all the. This woman had ears like unbelievable. The trees were also in the front and the back of the house. So it
Hmm.
was 8 trees. A car would come rolling down the street and she would hear some of the shells cracking.
Hmm.
At 3 a.m., she would snatch us out of bed, go get them pecans out of the street. We'd be like, what? And we would put on our little robe and we would get out in the street and get them all. And my
Wow.
grandmother would take them to a shelling manufacturing company and they would shell them, package them, and put them in a supermarket. And she would get money that way. My
Wow.
grandmother was a very smart woman. She owned the house on the right side of her. She owned the house on the left side. So on one street, she owned 3 houses and she
Wow.
was able to pay property taxes on all 3 homes once a year.
Wow.
And that's how
Wow.
she did it with pecan trees, y'all.
That is
My
amazing.
grandmother, my grandmother and grandfather on my father's side raised chickens. And so when they became mature, they would sell the eggs, sell the chickens. And again, they would go to a manufacturing company where they would get slaughtered and then, packaged up for the supermarket. And that's how they got their money. You see how simple life is
Yeah, for
without
real.
all the red tape being involved?
Really
But
though.
that's how our people live. That's how they made it.
Yeah. Yeah. When we are like an agricultural people, and it's
Yes.
wonderful to see even in the truth community, a lot of our people, really doing more things agriculturally, like starting or trying to like either get land or at the very least, even start businesses in that regard, like growing
Exactly. But
different
Chris, they
foods.
try to make us feel like we didn't know anything.
Oh
But
yeah.
when you go in the history, we had men that were specialized in rice
Yeah.
paddies. They would just go down, they knew how to go down in the water and plant the rice and everything. We had men that were specialized in sugarcane field. Those slaves weren't there by chance. They knew
Mhm.
in advance before they snatched them up what they were specialized in. They did it.
Yeah.
And you would actually see requests for slaves that were specialized in growing string beans, watermelon, I mean, everything.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
they weren't grabbing random people, y'all. They were grabbing people that were specialized in certain parts of agriculture. You
Yeah.
know,
That's really true. And
it was
I'm
not random. Thank you, Barbara B, for the super sticker. And there was one more here. Barbara B and Jertrell McKinney, thank you so much for the super chat. Oh, go ahead, Chris. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to disrupt
Oh,
you.
no, that's all right. I was going to add to that how, a lot of what I learned recently about slavery too, that it was never, you know, because a lot of what they do is Rome tactics, divide and conquer, but a lot of it was not about color or race or anything. It was
No, it
about
wasn't.
economy. It was about
Agriculture.
It was about
Exactly. That's
and
why it was called the slave economy. It
yep,
wasn't called anything else.
exactly. It was all about money and about cultivating the money for, you know, the Europeans at the time. And so now I think if I'm not mistaken too, their documents also talk about, like you just said, it has like their names, but I think some documents did have like their occupation, like what they did
Mhm.
during the time. And you notice how they always keep track of, specifically us in our communities, like they always keep track of occupations for us. I don't know if people realize that or peep that. Even in today's time, like they know, like I talk about on the channel, they know where you are, they know where you work, they know pretty much everything about you. But now I'm learning that they need to know those things about you because, again, they need to see how they can exploit you any way, shape, or form that they can, like they've done in the past. As far as I'm concerned, these companies today are no different than the plantations back then, like Amazon and
Absolutely.
all of them. The 9 to 5s. It's no different than the
But you know what,
plantation.
Chris? You know what? There's always remnants of what they did to us,
Yeah.
even today. I
Yes.
remember one day, one of, a friend of mine reached out to me and said, "Did you ever see the NFL draft?"
Um,
And I said, kind of briefly. So I said, well, this year I'll watch it.
hmm,
I went on to that video. I got so disgusted I had
yeah.
to click out.
Slavery all over again.
They get these black guys to strip down
Yeah.
to their underwear. They
Yeah.
walk out on the stage, they stand on a block that looked just like an auction block,
Hmm.
and it is disgusting watching that. But I said, this is interesting how they kept a remnant of
Hmm.
what they did during slavery, and they're justifying it by using it in drafting NFL players, you know? And I thought about it and I said, you know what? This is also a spiritual thing.
Yeah, it
You know
is.
what I mean? Just watching that, and it was disgusting. I could not get. I probably got through 10 minutes and I had to leave. I couldn't get through the whole thing.
Yeah, it's gross what they do and like how all the subliminal references, even in movies and children's books. Like for example, like recently, like in Shrek, like that movie. Who do you think the ogre is?
Yeah,
Like all these
the black man is always the boogeyman.
exactly, or
Black
like
man is
Curious
always the
George.
boogeyman.
Exactly, or Curious George, or Planet of the Apes, or even Kong. They came out with that recent movie Kong versus Godzilla, I think, or whatever the title
Oh yeah,
is.
yeah. Do you remember the sport? I think it was Sports Illustration cover where they had LeBron James and a white model, and he was actually depicting the ape in King Kong. Hold on. I know you've seen this. I bet you did. Let
I
me see if I
probably
can pull
have.
it up.
I probably have. That wouldn't surprise me at all because they're always doing these things. I'm always making these illusions, and it's just, uh, y'all knows after a while it does get very tiresome. But I mean, we know why though.
Yeah, we certainly do. We
Yeah, for
certainly
real.
do. And, they always have to try to dehumanize the black man in some kind of way.
Yeah,
And when I saw this, I said, this is exactly what they're doing. They're dehumanizing a black man. And
yeah.
in this case, it was LeBron James.
Or
But
even the word black too, like be lack. Like
yeah,
we don't lack. Or
no.
like how white rhymes with right. It's just like and even chess, how the white piece goes first. It's
Mm-hmm.
just all of
Mm-hmm.
these subliminals. Oh, it's so real.
Yes. Yes, it is. Let me see if I can get this picture. I know many of you remember this picture. And I remember seeing it and I was like, what the hell are they doing? I mean, come on. There's only you can't fool everybody with this. Many of us know what's going on. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, really.
Many of us know we're not blind to what's happening. But it always makes me laugh because with us, even black women, they try to make it seem like we are very mannish. And we're not. We're not, and I'm under the impression, I think they're under the impression that if they say a certain thing about us, then it is just simply true. And we know that's not true.
Exactly.
Or the black man, he's very violent. He's very confrontational. He is, oh, you better watch it when he's around. And I'm like, wait a minute, aren't you the one with that kind of history? Yeah, I'm serious. They have anything that's wrong with them, they have flipped it on to us.
Exactly. That's helped me heal, because a lot of, I have faced a lot of trauma with that, actually. But I think the one thing that's helped me heal a lot personally with that is the fact that, like, they're talking about themselves, so they can call us whatever they want, but they're talking about themselves. And I know Google has removed it, but there has been proof of white people born with tails. And I'm not trying to promote anything, but that's the truth. Like, that is real, actual truth.
Let me tell you something that happened on the last job I was on. That subject actually came up.
Really?
It actually, yes, it did.
Wow.
One woman that I worked with, and thank you to everybody that gave super chats and super stickers. I did not quite keep up, but thank you so much if you did. I worked with, I was predominantly white, like most corporations, and we got on that subject about tails. And some of them were admitting they were born with tails.
Wow.
And actually, one man knew not that many black people were born with tails. He even said it. He's like, no, that generally don't happen to you guys a lot, but it does happen with us. So they're aware of it. Yeah. Well, one woman in the office said, I still got my tail. And I'm like, what? She actually pulled her pants down partially, and you saw the little nub.
Ew.
It was there. Not only was it there, she showed how she could move it. She showed, I kid you not, she showed how she could move the thing.
That's disgusting.
So, no, they know that we don't get that much, but they do. Mm-hmm. They are aware of it. Trust me, they are.
Yes.
I had to laugh, but yeah, I was like, ugh. But yeah, some of the people in the office I worked with actually had the tail. They still had it as adults.
Wow.
All parents didn't get it cropped off. All right, hold on, y'all. I want to share this of LeBron. Okay. All right. Here we go. Do y'all remember this?
Yeah, just like Beauty and the Beast, no different.
Mm-hmm.
No different.
And this came out the last time they remade King Kong.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me. They're always doing stuff like that.
Yeah, the white woman, dainty, delicate. She got to be protected by the beast. He's got to protect her. And come on, she ain't none of them damn things. Let's be real. She ain't none of them things.
No.
But this is the picture they had put out the last time they remade a King Kong movie. And it's remade every so often.
Wow. Yeah, just like the Kong versus Godzilla one. And I think even in the trailer, they depict King Kong being in shackles.
Yes.
So it's like, come on.
And I mean, go figure. The black man don't even have primate DNA.
Nope.
But we keep getting this monkey thing. And again, it goes back to projecting on us things that are valid about them. We know they have that rhesus monkey, but we don't have that. We don't have it. And even in biracial people, it's just traces of it. Okay, it's not anything so significant that you can really even point it out. So, and it just goes to show you how much we really dominate in everything physically.
Yeah, like you said, they know it big time, but the reality is it's just all of this, like, keep it hush hush and, make it so they can't read and all of these things. But, one thing I'm so thankful for is now that our spiritual eyes are and physical eyes are really opening to the truth. Like I say on the
Hmm.
channel, with both eyes open, we're now really understanding, you know, these things, what they've done, and prayerfully, also somehow healing from it. Because, like we talked about earlier, it just seems like it's almost like when something happens, you overcome that, but then something else comes, and
Right.
it's just like even with these so-called trials and just what's happening in the news, and it's like, and I kind of alluded to that a little bit on the channel, like, you have to really use discernment about that, because are some of them
Yes.
even real? Are they staged? Like,
Hmm.
what's going on? Is there an agenda here? Were the families of the so-called victims paid off? Like, for real, like, it really makes you start to wonder, like, do they, or they're going to try to do anything they can to get these, push these agendas and get this whole race war thing started, because they know it ties in with not just the end times, but also, what, divide and conquer. And
Yes.
I just pray that, even, as they continue to remove people like us from YouTube, especially people making like a big impact on it, that people who have tuned into our channels or are tuning in will at the very least be able to remember what was said. Remember
Yes.
that, all right, these are the agendas. Remember that as these agendas are now taking place right in front of you, you will be able to remember, hey, that's right, Truth Unveiled what talked about this, or hey, Lisa Cabrera
Hmm.
talked about that, or hey, this truth channel or this person warned about this and they forewarned that this would happen, so that now I'm not surprised, or
Right.
now I'm not shocked, or now I don't have to rely on this person to tell me these things, or to give me, I guess you could say, truth news. But now I can go look at it myself, and now I can be able to discern what's going on myself based on this. And I pray that that's what people are doing, and not just relying on someone else to do it for
Right.
them. Because I think we talked about that before as well. Like, people sometimes get so heavily just reliant or so influenced, and that's the issue that I'm noticing. Like, it's so easy to get influenced. Oh yeah, Krispy Kreme is offering a donut, yeah, for people who get vaccinated for free. Like, let me go. Like, no, like,
Yeah.
no, like, that's promoting obesity and diabetes and other bad things. Like, no.
Yeah.
But it is what
Yeah.
it is, I guess.
Hmm. Hmm. And historically, this has always happened.
Yeah,
When you really think about it, what did they burn down 300 black towns
yeah,
that were thriving? And then they burnt down and bombed Black Wall Street.
yeah, Black
So
Wall Street.
historically, every time we gather, even online,
Hmm.
they always try to find a way to get a channel that is reaching the people
Yeah.
and get that taken off. Or, oh, they see us gathering and then they'll come in and troll and disrupt the chat. Historically, they always had that fear of
Hmm.
us gathering together. Even if we're just talking and chatting online, it is always viewed as a threat.
Exactly, like, just like I talked about on the channel about, what the government's doing, and oh, we have to fight off this threat, and oh, there's a threat, oh, there's a threat, oh, it's a big threat. There's always a threat, isn't there? But they know that
Hmm.
we are that so-called threat, and I talked about that in government documents about how one of their so-called hate group targets is us, those of us
Right.
who claim that we are the true chosen. And I could be completely off when I say this, but folks, I think it's going to come to a point where, you know it's going to be a hate crime to say that, oh, we are the true chosen people. It's going to be seen and labeled as a hate crime. It's going to be seen and labeled as anti-Semitic, that if you're speaking against the Jewish, or if you're claiming that anyone but the Jewish are the chosen, well, then you could go to prison for that. Well, that for them, that's grounds of hate speech, so much so that that's point to potentially decapitate your head off. And I'm not trying to, like, be exaggerating with this, but that's where the agenda is going right now. I mean, let's face it, in Ontario right now, it's already a crime to leave your house just to go to a different province unless you have a legitimate essential reason to go. Now the
Hmm.
police can fine you up to $750 just for doing that. So,
Hmm.
and if I'm not mistaken, I talked about on the channel too, if you didn't, at one point in the UK, if you did not comply with the mask mandate, you could get fined up to, like, what, $1,000, $10,000. And even in Singapore and other different places, all of this stuff is happening. But meanwhile, they just want people focused on, oh yeah, the trials, and oh yeah, Netflix. And oh yeah, this streaming service and that streaming service that just so happened to pop up out of nowhere within the last year or so, right when COVID started. What a surprise or a coincidence. It's not looking like it. Like for real, folks, like this stuff is some real stuff that
Yes.
is happening even before
Yes.
our eyes. And it's just like, I just pray that people, including myself, that we just don't get influenced and caught up, because that's what the enemy's trying to do in this hour, as I'm seeing it with like the spiritual warfare and things like
Mm-hmm.
that. Like I think we talked over the phone about, especially with those of us who, like you said, have powerful influence, and the enemy knows that there's powerful influence. I mean, the word even says when two or more gathered together in his name, there he is in the midst. And so the enemy's trying to shut all that down and stop that
Yes.
altogether. And it's like, and I think we talked about that on the phone too, about that prophetic dream I had that I shared. It was like the first video ever uploaded onto Truth Unveiled 777 about the one world internet, where they're going to shut it down. And then when it comes back up, more than likely your channel's going to be forever gone. My channel's going to be forever gone. Anyone talking about the scriptures, even if it's JC, is going to be forever gone. And the only thing that's going to be allowed is pretty much what's allowed right now, which is atheism type things like cooking channels and
Mm-hmm.
entertainment channels, which again, that's nothing. There's nothing wrong with, I guess, looking up like a how-to cooking video. But at the end of the day, the enemy knows that, well, the reality is stuff like the things that like we talk about, or like, truth related topics, things that, again, like I learned why COVID is such a big push when it comes to speak the truth and everything. It is because of influence. Because I think I was talking to
Yes.
my mom about this. Like again, if you like statistically, if you have 1,000, let's just say for right now that you have a video that has the potential to reach up to at least 50,000 people, and out of those 50,000 people, let's just say 1,000 of those people share it onto their Facebook page, or even 5,000 of those people share it onto their Facebook. So 5,000 people share it. Now you have from them sharing it 1,000. Let's say each one of those people have 1,000 friends. So now that person shares it to their 1,000 friends, and let's say all 1,000 people see it. So 5,000 times 1,000, if I'm not mistaken, and please correct me if I'm wrong, but I want to say it's like 50 million people, right? You have the potential and the power to impact up to millions, tens of millions of people. And that's the
Mm-hmm.
thing. YouTube and all these companies, as I call them, the modern day Goliaths, these giants, they don't want that. Because why? They know that if people are influenced by that, or if again you see like a lot, what I'm noticing, what's happening on Facebook especially, a lot of groups and a lot of videos of people getting side effects from the what are
Mm-hmm.
getting taken down and pulled down.
Yeah.
Why? Because again, they need people to think that, oh yeah, this is safe, and oh yeah, this is effective, and oh yeah, the government says so, so we should do it. And I was talking to my mom about this very thing as well. About, I don't know if you all remember that movie Kingsman. It came out, I think, in like 2015 with Samuel L. Jackson. And
Mm-hmm.
but long story short, there was a brief scene in the movie that had to do with SIM cards, where Samuel L. Jackson played the antagonist role and was giving out free SIM cards to people. And people, of course, were up in the air. They're like, "Oh, a great thing! Oh, free cell phone! Oh, free SIM card! It's going to have this benefit, that benefit, this benefit, that benefit." And then eventually, I want to say towards like the end of the movie or so, there was like this massacre scene in like a church. And long story short, L. Jackson was able to like twist some device, and basically people were in a snap. They turned violent all of a sudden. And it's like, do people not see that this is potentially what's happening right now? Like, what, according to the government, over 130 million people in the US alone now have taken at least one dose of the what. So it's like, what are the potential effects and consequences of this? And I talked about that on it's also on the BitChute channel, about the effects of it, and about the impact and consequences and the ingredients and the technology that is involved, that they don't want people to know, because there's an agenda, as we've talked about. And I we could go on and on about this, but I think it's important for people to realize how, again, anything free that's from the government should be a red flag in and of itself. And the fact that this COVID vaccine, if I'm not mistaken, this is like one of the only vaccines that's free, if as far as I'm concerned. I remember from my great grandmother, she was in a nursing facility. They started coming to the facility just to administer the vaccine. And in the back of my mind, I'm like, but wait a minute, they didn't do that with the Zika, they didn't do that with the MMR, they didn't do that. Why just this one? Why are you strategically coming to the elderly facilities location with this one, but you didn't do it with all the other ones?
And you notice also another thing that they're doing this with, and they did not do with any other jab, a passport.
Yeah, the passport.
The
That's
vaccine
right.
passport.
Yeah, a passport just to travel, or outside of your house or to your job. Why do you need a passport for that?
Yeah.
It's just like, I mean, we know why, because of the control, the Satanist agenda leading up to the NWO, the New World Order. But it's like, for real, a lot of people just, and what's worse for me, I think, that I'm dealing with, is how many people just think this is normal. People think it's normal and all right to wear masks and be 6 feet apart. People think that this behavior is all right, like that this is just normal everyday behavior, that this is just, oh, all right, well, I have to go to the grocery store, I have to socially distance, I have to keep 6 feet apart, we can't really make any contact, and we have to wear the mask all day, even though that is polluting the immune system, and that is even that in and of itself has long-lasting health consequences, especially if people are wearing it, in their jobs. And again, if people have to do this, of course, I understand, but it's just like, if only more people would just be able to wake up and see what is going on and see what time it really is, like you talk about on the channel.
You're right. And not to mention, if you really go back and look at everything that has come out in the media, these folks have not been right about one single thing in a year. And I'm serious. If you go back and research, you'll see what I'm saying. They have not been right about one single thing.
No.
But they are still trying to almost like brainwash us into continuing to follow them. Just overlook what we were wrong about. Overlook it. Just ignore that. Just keep listening to us.
Exactly. And then, use, it's like, it's all a strategy. Use these companies for incentives. And, I think, this is me personally, but I think that's how the start of it's going to be. Like, they're going to start it voluntarily, and then soon enough, they potentially can bring in the military. But before they do that, they need to see how many people will voluntarily do it. Well, if we offer them, a stipend or a stimulus check, or these people got to go back to work. Like you said, some of them have been laid off for so long. They got to do this, they got to do that. So, well, or if they want to go see like a Beyonce concert, or if they want to go to a sports game, well, then in order to do that, or to be privileged to do that, you need to take this vaccine, or you need to do this, you need to do that. And it's just like, after a while, it kind of does, especially for like people like you and myself, who like get out videos and are actively trying to do our best to warn the people and sound the alarm about these things. Sometimes it really can get overwhelming just to see, not just the fact that you're trying to really authentically get out the truth, but the fact that you're constantly, met with opposition, or that you're constantly met with just different circumstances, so to speak, like ourselves. At least with me, the YouTube channel being terminated twice now, like not once, but twice.
Right.
within like a 3-year period. But meanwhile, in 2015, I promise you, there was not this much censorship. There was not this much. It wasn't like all the videos. I'll never forget, like Illuminati exposed, and Illuminati exposed, and those videos would get like hundreds of thousands. Some of them would get millions of views, that were like really authentically, telling about the world around us. Or even some flat earth videos, or just all these different topics. Even the FEMA camp videos that I did on the channel back in 2016 were amassing hundreds of thousands of views.
I live 2 miles away from a FEMA camp.
Oh, watch out now.
and let me tell you, I lived through Hurricane Sandy.
Oh yeah.
And I can tell you without a shadow of a doubt, FEMA did zero for us.
Of course.
We had to fend for ourselves after that disaster. We didn't do nothing.
Man. Oh, it is real. Oh, it is real.
They did nothing. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, okay, where's FEMA? They didn't offer to give us a crumb. Nothing.
Man. Well, I'm glad you all got through it though, because man.
And then when they went to Puerto Rico, I tried to tell everybody on video, they're not going to do nothing for those folks.
No.
You know, and then when they gave out food, Chris, they were giving them stuff like Fruit Loops, Starburst. I was like, that ain't a meal.
Are you for real?
But yeah, and I kept telling, I said, I lived through a hurricane, and I know FEMA ain't crap, y'all. You just go, and then when they did that in Puerto Rico, gave them pudding, Starburst, Fruit Loops.
They need to stop. Oh,
I mean, any crap they could throw, and they expected these people with children, elderly people, and everything to survive on that.
Oh, massive genocide. Oh.
And yeah, and then one day FEMA, without any notice, got up and left. And if you look at a drone shot of Puerto Rico to this very day, they still got blue tarps up on their roofs.
Oh, wow.
From Hurricane Maria.
Well, that was like almost going on 4 years ago now. Man.
Yeah. Yeah. So they did not help those people do squat. They didn't help them do nothing. And I tried to tell them you are not going to get any help.
Wow. Well, prayerfully, people, will start to see even through that they ain't got our best interest. They really don't.
No, and the excuse that FEMA gave when people in New Jersey complained, they said they were understaffed and didn't have enough people and yada yada yada.
Always an excuse.
Whatever.
Always an excuse.
Yeah. Crazy. Yeah, but whatever. That's why I said, you got to have your own backup plan when these disasters happen, because I'm telling you, FEMA is not going to be able to do nothing for you.
No.
And it's a sad thing, but it's true.
Very true indeed. And I pray people realize that sooner than later.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we had people without power for a month. And I had a couple of neighbors that lived on a cross street. They came and knocked on my door because they actually got our power on a little before some of the other people on the street. And they came knocking. They were like, "You got power?" I said, "Yes." They were like, "I've been without power for a month." And I was like, wow. It was sad.
Oh,
it was sad. It was cold in the middle of, I would say, like the end of October and November, and I would look out front and I would just see all these puffs of smoke coming up from people trying to grill food in cold weather, just to have something to eat. Man, it was really that bad.
And as I think we talked about that before too. It's all just preparation for even more things to come.
Yeah.
For real.
Yeah. So thank you so much for being here. I deeply appreciate you sharing your time with us.
Oh, thank you for having me.
And if I did post in the chat your PayPal, Cash App, and your new YouTube channel. So if you did not know, how to get to his YouTube channel, it's just look in the posting. It's actually on the last line. You will see the link and you can go ahead and subscribe, and he's also in the background working on trying to get the other channel back up and running. You still got to fight for that stuff. You don't let your hard work go to waste, because, you may not realize it, but it takes time to do these videos and to accumulate hundreds or even thousands of videos. That's a lot of hard work that you put out there, and you never want to see that go. So I definitely support you. And please, if you feel there's anything that I can do to help you move things along, just let me know. I'm just letting you know my support is definitely there for you. And those of you, if you can make a donation, please make a donation. Anything you give is always deeply appreciated. I even gave a donation. Okay. So I'm not telling you to do something that I have not done, but definitely get over there and sub. And, just you being there and listening means a lot.
Yes, and yes, and also, can I add something to that real quick for
Absolutely.
everyone? um, just so that everyone knows too. First of all, thanks again for having me here. I really definitely appreciate it indeed, and also for all of you all who have been emailing me personally and have been, for your support and donations as well. It's definitely appreciated. Again, please forgive me for those of you who I have not responded to an email, or if I don't respond on comments. It's nothing personal. It's just there's been a lot going on. Like some of you might be wondering, well, what happened to the archives channel? Because that was the original backup channel. But long story short, that channel had two strikes on it as of April 1st. It technically should have gotten a third strike on April 1st because they took down the Pizzagate video once again.
Mm-hmm.
So I was for sure that they were going to terminate it by that point. And I had another video on there that I backed up a couple years ago about the transgender agenda or the transvestigations type video.
Mm-hmm.
And they basically terminated all those channels or have made it so that maybe only like 2,000 people see them now. But long
Uh-huh.
story short, I already knew that that channel was more than likely going to be terminated. Plus, it wasn't being monetized at all. And again, I don't do this for that reason, but people need to understand, like you said, that this is, at least for myself, this is a full-time thing, that this is something trying to get out the truth, come up with new topics, research new topics, do the video, make the video, edit the video, publish the video, manage comments, manage emails, respond to emails, host immersions, conduct the immersions. It's like all of these different things is a full-time thing on top of dealing with spiritual warfare, on top of dealing with personal things outside of that. So with the backup channel, I already knew that deep down it was more than likely going to be terminated again. Plus, YouTube made it so that when they got rid of the Pizzagate video, which should have been the third strike, it was the second one. They made it so that I couldn't upload for 2 weeks. And so that kind of pushed me to the limit. And then, like I told you over the phone, I was dealing with the death in my relatives, the death in the family, somebody who was really near and dear to us. She passed away a couple of weeks ago now. So it had just been a lot going on. So that by that point, I had just basically, I'm like, look, I personally needed space away from YouTube myself, from all of
Yeah.
the draconian, again, because people don't realize that, like, how much it affects you as the content creator. The people don't realize, like, all right, you all are the audience watching the video or watching the content that has been created, but do you understand the spiritual warfare that one has had to go through just to for this video to be published, just to hit the publish button? So long
Mm-hmm.
story short, try dealing with that for like 5-6 years, like in my case. So long story short, I deleted the backup channel myself, not because just because of personal issues and circumstances. Plus, I knew that they were going to terminate it anyway, so that's why I started the other one, the one that's linked, which I think has under 1,000 subscribers right now. But like you said, the main channel, for those of you who don't know, is definitely being fought for, and I'm just praying, as always, that Yahweh shows favor, just like He did the first time,
Mm-hmm.
that it gets restored. Because the reality is, like we talked about, what they're doing at this point to silence not just us, but just people, period. Even other channels that have been terminated and other channels that I know about that have been unlawfully terminated. Like you might have heard of ones like the Black Child and a few other ones that also talked about certain things, but and their content was censored. It's illegal what they're doing, and they
Right.
know it's illegal. And like we talked about before, because at first I was like, well, like, can they do what they're doing? And the answer is no, they cannot, and they know this legally and from a legal standpoint. And so, like you said, it's definitely worth fighting for. And as far as in case people are wondering, like, where do we go from here on the backup channel? Right now, I'm just trying to re-upload as much content as possible. I don't know if you get this question a lot, but I get this question quite often about why I don't go to like other platforms like Rumble or I'm on BitChute, but I'm on there. I only have like 3 videos uploaded on there. And the main reason I've tried talking about it on the main channel and the backup channel is because like the word says, he who wins souls is discerned or wise. And
Right.
so the reality is, with a lot of these other platforms like Rumble, BitChute, etc., a lot of people who are on those platforms already know the truth. They already know about COVID. They already know about the truth about the VAC. They already know things about these topics. A lot of these people, they already know this stuff. It's almost like preaching to the choir, if that makes sense. So
Yeah.
it's like, my question becomes, how are you reaching new people? How are you reaching like your average Joe in the streets who knows absolutely nothing about anything, who might click on your video or Truth Unveiled 777 or even this video, who will click on this for the very first time, know absolutely nothing about this. At least for me personally, when I was in my truth journey coming into the truth. Now, meanwhile, they didn't have those websites back then, like BitChute and all that. These are like more so recent platforms. But
Mm-hmm.
the average day person is not going to know about BitChute. The average day person is not going to know about Rumble. The average day person is not going to know about these third-party platforms that are claimed to be free, and they claim to be non-draconian and stuff. But let me just tell you this, even with my experience with BitChute, as far as I'm concerned, there are a lot of agents on BitChute as well. Not everyone,
Mm-hmm.
but a lot. And for me personally, I am shadow banned on BitChute as well, because when I type in Truth Unveiled 777 in the search bar on BitChute, unless they changed it, none of the videos that I published even pop up.
Uh-huh.
It's no different than YouTube as far as I'm concerned.
Right.
And I know that as far as I'm concerned, the reality too is, who owns the internet? Who
Mm-hmm.
owns, so it's like, all right, you're publishing onto this platform, or even if you make your own website, well, making your own website, it's going to be difficult for hundreds of thousands of people to find your own website. And even if they do, the reality is, though, is that, all right, who owns GoDaddy? Who owns HostGator or all the hosting websites? Again, they could easily come out with some law from Bill Gates saying that, oh, guess what? We own the Google Chrome, or we own the companies behind it. And guess what? We are now limiting content that we think is a harm, or we think is a threat to internet safety as a whole. Like, they could come out with some internet safety law. I don't know if they will, or if they're in the works. But the reason I'm saying all that is because we also have to think, how can we most effectively reach people? And for me personally, again, I know ministry is different for everyone, but for me, I was given the YouTube platform, and I was given the platform on YouTube for a purpose.
Right.
So if that's where the creator has given me the platform to be, then that's where I'm going to be. I also got rid of my Instagram account. I don't know if some of you known about that a couple months ago, because the reality is that just wasn't the platform where I was meant to be.
Yeah.
I shared a couple of encouraging words on there, but again, everybody has their own platform, and like the saying goes, stay in your own lane. So
Mm-hmm.
I pray that this helps people really understand from that angle and standpoint. At this point right now, what I'm doing is I'm really trying to really just focus on getting the original channel back and rightfully reinstated like it should be in the first place. That's
Mm-hmm.
kind of like the main thing that I'm like really focusing on right now, as well as re-uploading content, kind of, I guess you could say, based on importance. Like, so if you go to the the backup channel now, you'll see most of the documentaries are back uploaded. You'll see that the True Location series is basically restored. All of those videos are now basically uploaded again. And now I'm really just trying to get a lot of the Living Righteously and Scriptures Often Ignored videos back up, and then prayerfully soon enough more prophetic ones, and just kind of go from there. But I think it's important for people to understand and realize that, it is a lot, especially on one person, especially for me, like dealing with just, like I said, personal things. And then still, and I don't use this as an excuse, but still realizing that, wait a minute, I'm not even 30 years old.
Mm-hmm.
there's still like a lot of growth in me as well. And like just different things that I'm doing personally as well, that also, it's just a lot going on. So I just pray that people who are watching, who are or were subscribed to Truth Unveiled 777, really understand and realize that as well.
I believe they do.
Yeah. So that would really help
Mhm.
me a ton. And also, again, thanks for your support and donations. They are very um, helpful indeed in these times, especially because that's the other thing I wanted to mention is, like, as you know, I think that re-uploading this content, again, trying to do it full time and everything, you don't get paid for it. And it's like, when it's something that you do full time and you're trying to continue on doing it full time, and YouTube is doing what they're doing, and like they did with the Truth Unveiled 777 archives, they
Mhm.
completely removed the monetization from it. So for basically 3 years in a row, it was not able to be monetized.
Right.
And it's like, but they're not doing this with these twerking channels. You know what I mean?
No,
It's just
but
like,
you know what?
for
You're
real.
right. Because look, there was a guy that was on here and he had millions of subscribers. He was a black guy and his whole channel was about playing chess.
Really?
And they took him down.
Did he
They
ever get
took
it
him
back?
down a few weeks ago. Yeah. And there is the Ministry of Wellness. And he doesn't do anything but talking about how to physically eat right and, you know, and stop picking all kinds of manufactured foods and stuff and have a healthier, balanced diet. They took him down.
Really? And these channels, that they're not back up. They're just completely gone now.
Yeah, they're gone.
Really?
So it's not even, you got to, I personally think it is a thing about race.
It has to
Because
be. Yeah.
how do you justify that? Somebody is just doing videos talking about food. How is that offensive?
Yeah, really. And
And then you got somebody that's just talking about playing chess, and that's what their whole channel is about. And that was offensive? No, it couldn't be that.
no. No, no, not at all. Like you said, I noticed that too a lot. Like again, I think we talked about that earlier about like they're pushing this like social stigma. Seems like a lot of like Caucasian channels that I see do well are like ones that are like in the millions that are like, you know, more prim and proper. But then ones that are us that do well, not all of them, but a good majority of them portray us. How do I put this? In a very, how do I put this? Ghetto way.
Yeah. Well,
Not all of them.
did you ever hear of Shane Dawson?
Shane Dawson?
Yeah.
That name sounds familiar.
Shane Dawson was a white guy and he became a millionaire on YouTube going in blackface.
Oh.
He had videos that have been out there for over 10 years where he goes in blackface mocking black men and women. And YouTube literally let this guy become a millionaire over the course of 10 years. And
Wow.
it was not YouTube that stopped him from doing blackface video, but it was YouTubers that disgraced him so bad. He took the videos down. And just for a brief moment, they didn't take him down. They just demonetized him. But I think he got his monetization back.
Oh, that wouldn't surprise me. Like,
so, okay, so you didn't touch him. And there's a lot of them. You got another guy, I can't think of his name right now, and he puts makeup on. I guess he's trans or whatever. They just found out Charles James, I think they call him, and he's a white guy YouTuber that puts makeup on, got millions of subscribers, been out here for many years, became a millionaire, and they just found out he was sexting children.
Yeah, I think I might have heard about that. Like 16, 17-year-olds.
Yeah. The worst thing they did to him was demonetize him, but they allowed him to stay out here.
But yeah, folk like us get our channels terminated, deleted over hate speech that's not really hate or quote unquote medical misinformation. That's not misinformation at all because it's backed up with sources and actual research. Oh, wow. The hypocrisy is real.
Yeah. And I want you to think about this because I'll have every now and then a white troll will pop up. Oh, you're so terrible. You're racist. Look, our experience in America is different from everyone else. So our videos are going to reflect that.
Very
all right.
So.
And what they're asking us to do is completely ridiculous. Oh, stop talking about this. Oh, so, okay. First of all, we're not going to stop talking about it because number one, what did you do to resolve the racist situation in America? Nothing. Okay. So when you come to us and say you shouldn't talk about this, that is completely unrealistic because you didn't resolve nothing. You didn't try to make it right. Centuries have gone by. You had plenty of opportunity to turn this thing around. You've done nothing. So when you come and say, stop talking about this and that, that's unrealistic. That's not going to happen. That's why you're not seeing it happen.
No, and they're trying to like just expect everyone to go on with it, and even YouTube itself can't talk about this, can't talk about that. Like they even pulled down the I think that's why the Archives channel got striked. Who are the I don't know if you remember the documentary, Who Are the Real Biblical Israelites Part 2. So this
Mm-hmm.
was Part 2. This was the documentary with music in it. It was the one with it went more in depth than Beyond the Russian Icons, and
Right.
it talked about like it showed it featured things like like the gator bait and actual authentic photographs of like human leather and articles
Yeah, I
that
remember that.
and all of the different research that was done into this, and also authentic photographs of like the what they I think they called it like the coon buckets, or like hit the like hit the nigger babies, excuse my language, but like hit the nigger baby, and like all of these
And they
different,
really had that.
yeah, like they
That was
really
at
had
their
these things.
right.
But
And
you
when you
go
go
ahead.
to a carnival, you're actually going to a place like that where they would have babies, sometimes men and women, and they would actually throw balls
Yeah,
and they would go fall into the water, you know?
yeah, but
And
YouTube took that
why do you
content
think
down.
you still see that at amusement parks to this day?
Yep, they leave it right there for people. But YouTube, they took down that video. They took it down twice actually, and then and struck the channel because they claimed that it was promoting again that whole hate speech or hate content. But it's like this is not hate speech or content. If first of all, if this is what has happened throughout history, and second of all, they claim that it's too graphic, but yet they allow world star hip hop fights and all of these different
And they're all
graphic
over
things
YouTube.
all over YouTube.
All over
They just
YouTube.
age restrict the videos, but that almost, as far as today's world is concerned, doesn't even matter because most people watch YouTube on their phones or mobile, so they're already logged into their YouTube account.
Chris,
And
they got music on YouTube. Anybody can look this up. That comes directly from the minstrel shows.
this
I
is
mean, it's
interesting.
on YouTube and it's very offensive. And you could leave my live stream right now and pull up thousands of different songs that they recorded from the minstrel shows.
And then didn't Lil Nas X do that one video about like with I'm not even gonna I don't recommend people look at it, the music video where it was just very graphic, and like
Yeah.
promoting sex, and then even just language, like a lot of videos that are being promoted, it's like profanity in every other sentence. It's like, what is
Yeah.
really happening here? I mean, we know what's happening, and we understand, but it's just I think for me it's like to just see it happening like as it's happening, and like to see one group of people and community, what they're trying to do is dwindle and dwindle and dwindle, but this other one is just expanding, expanding, expanding. It's just like, really?
Yeah.
Like, wow, like this is how desperate they are. Like this
It
is
is.
how desperate they are. Like even to see Fauci always talking to so-called blacks about the vaccine, and
I don't
effective
like the
in
way
our
he talks to
communities.
us.
And, oh no,
I don't like the way Fauci talks to us.
no,
You
I
know,
don't either.
when the Tuskegee experiment came up, he said, "Forget about all of that. Don't think about that. Just get the shot." I was like, "Oh, okay."
That's
You
what this
know,
is about.
yeah. And I thought to myself, this is no different than listening to any other white supremacist. It really isn't. You know, we're the only group of people that are told to forget about our history.
Yep, the
But
only
what
one.
does it say in the Bible? Remember the days of old.
Hmm.
Doesn't it tell us to remember our history?
And to teach
Yeah,
our children about like the Passover and about
that's
like
right.
different things. And so yeah, we're the only ones. And like even because I've been blocked before COVID, of course, to have visited 22 countries and like four different continents. And it's like every place you go, these people, they know their history, they know their heritage. I can ask them because I've been to Pakistan, like, well, what's the history here, and how did this happen, and how did this originate? Where did this name come from? They can answer like that. They can answer in a snap. But
Right.
it's like for us, it's like that's like even I try to explain this to our people and even my relatives, like, what about us? English is our first language? No, we have a language just like all the other nations. Or where's our land? Like and that's what I try to really emphasize on Truth Unveiled 777 is the restore version of these things. We have a land as well. We have a nation too. We have a history, culture, identity as well. And it's like, but it seems like people need, in the general consensus, they are not concerned about those things. They are
No.
concerned about They are concerned about what's hot on the radio. They are concerned about what this so-called celebrity is doing today. They're concerned about this YouTuber who, is how do I put this? Is more than likely, not the gender that they think it is. It's just so many things right now that it's
Mhm.
just distracting and blinding the minds of people. And it's like, and sometimes I even wonder myself, like what is it going to take? Like, what is it really going to take to really get people to just open their eyes? Because it's
Right,
almost like you can tell somebody something multiple times, but unless it's the will of the Father, unless it's Yahuwah like going who's using the Ruach our spirit to bring them into the truth,
right.
then it's almost like you're talking to a wall. That's kind of
You
what
are.
how I've
You
kind of
are. I
gotten it.
just came to conclusion over the years that I think some people are just supposed to be confounded by things.
Hmm.
That's why they don't pursue it, or they have no interest in learning, or they
Yeah,
don't want to go any further in in their knowledge and everything.
yeah,
And I just had to gradually learn how to accept that. There are some people, when we go and ask for more knowledge, we get it. And then there are some people, they are not interested in knowing anything. They are so far into this world and anything going on. They can tell you about every celebrity and what that person is into and what they do, and if this one practice witchcraft or not. But when it comes down to the word, they know nothing and they're not interested. Or they have this attitude. I had one even tell me, well, if I get into the word, then don't I have to give up pork and give up that? I was like, what? But yeah, there are things in this world they don't want to give up. So because they feel that way, they're not going to gravitate towards the Most High because they feel like it's too strict and I got to give all this stuff up. I was like, shoot, once you get into it, you won't even miss that stuff.
no, you really won't, and that's what I learned too. It's a transformative walk, and and I tried to even explain this to other people as well. Like, a lot of the laws that were given to us in the scripture is for our benefit. Like
Yeah.
for example, the no pork and no shellfish. It's like that's to keep us healthy. And first of all, it's not food in the beginning, and second of all that stuff. It's like, do people even look at the diseases and all the issues that it contains, like, and all the doctors will even tell you that pork is attributed to a bunch of diseases.
It's technically, it's not even food.
No,
Do
it's
you
not.
even realize that? Technically, pork is not food.
No, it's not.
Okay. It's not.
No, but like you said, people are gonna continue to. I've learned that too. Like, people are gonna do what they want. Most of them, and you just have to love them from a distance and leave them where they are after a
Yeah.
while. I've learned that the hard way on the channel.
Chris, I
Really.
remember we drove from New Jersey to Georgia. I had to go to a business meeting, and this was around 2016. I had to go down there for 1 week on training for the company I worked for. So we drove down there by car. I think by the time we got to Virginia, I don't think we passed a billboard that showed pork or come eat your breakfast here. Oh, stop by the diner. I don't think not one billboard did not have pork on it. And I was
Really.
like, look how heavily this is promoted in the country.
Mm,
It,
wow.
it is like, it's like everybody's conditioned to believe if you have breakfast, you got to have that side of bacon and
Mhm.
pork sausage, and it was just so mind-blowing how much of we saw just driving down there. I just couldn't believe it, but this is what they promote, and it attributes to, like you said, the bad health that we see among our people.
Yes, predominantly so, and sometimes it's like you said, you just have to, for sanity and shalom or peace of mind. I've just learned too, you have to just leave them where they are and pray that they come to the truth eventually. But it is what it is. I mean, it's almost like, because you want everyone, of course, to know about it and follow along too with the truth. But I mean, his word also says that few there be that find the narrow path. So I've learned that
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah. And even when you get away from pork, y'all, you got to constantly look at labels. It
Yes.
would blow your mind what they put pork in, and
Yes.
you don't even realize it. So yeah, you still have to be careful. Even if you think a product, you may assume, oh, well, there can't be no pork in here. Yeah, there's pork in there.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's pork in there.
Yeah, I've done a video about that, about like pork and things like soap. I
Yeah,
think even unless they
even
change
the
the,
paper towel,
yeah, paper, even box of crayons, like
crayons. Yep,
lotions, all type of
it would
stuff.
blow you away.
Yeah.
Bounty. You know why it's so stretchy? It's got pork in it. You would be shocked.
Disgusting.
I mean, some of the things that you would think, why would that product need pork? Why would you put that in there? But it has pork. It's not just food. Don't
Yeah.
believe that pork is in food. Sometimes you can buy a wallet and the wallet is made of pigskin. Do you know you're not supposed to have that wallet?
Or
You,
even
you shouldn't
brushes.
even touch it. Yeah, because that almost happened to me. I got a gift and somebody gave me a gift and and it said right on there leather. So I looked at it and do you know that thing was made from a pig? I couldn't
Wow.
keep the wallet. I couldn't keep it.
That's very gross indeed. Oh,
So, I know a lot of people say I don't eat pork, but you really got to go beyond that.
yeah. Yeah. Same with like worship too. So many things.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
So, I'll definitely keep in touch with you.
Yes, of course.
And let me know if anything change or your channel comes back up. So I will definitely spread the word to everybody.
Yes, thank you. I really appreciate that.
All right, everybody. Thank you so much for being here. And we'll definitely be doing it again. And and I hope Yaram can come back and do another interview with us, sometime in the, next coming months.
Yes, definitely. Definitely. I would love to. Thanks again for having me. And thanks again for listening to um, part of my story. And
Yes.
yeah, just for listening and tuning in.
Yes. All right, everybody. Shalom and enjoy the
Shalom.
rest of your night.
Take care.
Mm-hmm.